Ronaldinho was up in the stands, pouring his soul into Brazil on a night that simply screamed, "Do or die" against Japan. This was the round of 32 at the 2026 World Cup, and that image stirred something. Maybe the Selecao would need a flash of individual magic, the kind of sorcery the wizard Ronaldinho once conjured, just to nudge ahead of Japan. Their opponents looked sharper and hungrier, while Brazil still seemed busy chasing the ghost of who they used to be. In their last meeting, Japan beat Brazil for the very first time, 3-2. Carlo Ancelotti chose his words carefully beforehand. "That loss was a useful lesson," he said. "It showed us exactly how dangerous and competitive this Japan side really is." They had also beaten England back in March. "We respect them completely," he insisted, "and we are treating this like a final, because in truth, it was one." And maybe that is why Brazil came out looking like a team ready to seize every scrap. You saw it the instant the whistle blew. In Bruno Guimarães, pumping up the crowd after winning a corner in the second minute. The Samba men were topping off the emotional fuel tank early, bracing for what promised to be a long and brutal road. In the 10th minute, Vinicius Jr., who had been scoring for the Selecao in the group stage, found the ball at his feet inside the box. But nothing came easy here. Japan's defenders stayed switched on, calm, and frustratingly tough to slip past. At the other end, even a savvy old head like Casemiro was forced into a foul as Junior Ito surged, right at the edge of Brazil's area. From the free kick, mercifully, the low effort never beat the man planted behind the wall. In the 20th minute, both Vinicius Jr. and Lucas Paqueta tried to slice through, charging at the defense, looking to drag it down to the byline. But the white shirts shuffled across in perfect harmony, stubborn and composed. They broke up wave after wave of Samba pressure, and of course this Japan team did not come only to defend. The earthquake hit in the 29th minute, turning South American nerves into outright dread. Sano stole the ball in midfield, drove straight at the box, and rifled a ruthless shot across the keeper into the far corner. It was the kind of gem you expected from Brazil, not against them. Low and venomous, it gave Alisson no chance. 1-0, Japan. They really are making a habit of toppling giants. Are they not, they? Stunned and soaked in cold reality, the five-time champions had to push forward in search of a leveler. In the 34th minute, Vinicius Jr. collected it from outside 20 meters and let fly. But the strike lacked the venom to test Suzuki's focus. Just 4 minutes later, Cunha tried his luck with a dipping effort from distance, again without the punch it needed. These were Brazil's frustrated attempts to break the deadlock. Just before the half wrapped up, the cameras cut straight to Neymar, looking like a man with a message he was dying to deliver. Would he soon step on to rescue Brazil, refusing to bow out early at what could be his last dance at a World Cup? In the 48th minute, the trouble kept coming, as veteran Danilo had to chop down yet another lightning Japanese break. That desperation showed how hard Brazil's defense was working against Japan's relentless, unpredictable energy. Then came the 53rd minute, a chaotic, nerve-shredding scramble. Vinicius Jr. glanced a clever header into the path of Casemiro to finish from close range, just a few yards out. The leveler looked certain for the Selecao, yet the ball teasingly struck Junior Ito as he covered the line and bounced right back into Suzuki. But all that suffocating pressure finally bore priceless fruit in the 56th minute. From a deep, perfectly weighted delivery, Casemiro climbed highest and powered a header into the net, reigniting their hopes of going through. Riding that surge of adrenaline, Brazil nearly flipped the whole game on its head just 2 minutes later as Vinicius jinked through the box and curled a delicate effort with the outside of his right boot. It grazed Suzuki, kissed the post, and stayed out. A groan of agony swept through a stadium drenched in yellow and green as the contest crept toward its final, cautious minutes. In the 73rd minute, the marauding centre-back Gabriel whipped in a pinpoint cross for young Ryan to attack with a thumping header. The ball clipped Suzuki's back and skipped agonizingly wide. By the 89th minute, Vinicius was still tormenting them, feinting one way then curling a crafty effort goalward, only for it to nick a white-shirted defender and spin away. The board flashed 6 minutes of stoppage time, and the miracle for Brazil, the heartbreak for Japan, arrived in the 5th added minute. It came from a gorgeous Brazilian attack, a through ball sliding right down the middle. Martinelli took his first touch with the left, then curled with the right, the ball arcing into the far corner, kissing the post and nestling in. That late strike made it 2-1 and blew the roof off the stadium in Houston, sealing an emotional comeback for the ages. That hard-fought win carried enormous life-or-death weight for Brazil's campaign. Had they crashed out bitterly at this very first knockout hurdle, it would surely rank as one of the most disappointing World Cups in their entire history. After all, the last time the yellow and green were knocked out this early was all the way back in 1966, when only 16 teams took part. An embarrassing exit could have turned the decision to hire Carlo Ancelotti into a pointless gamble. The public would have instantly asked whether the land of samba football was willing to trade its artistic soul for cold, pragmatic results. That nail-biting passage after 90 minutes was the answer. A resounding statement of mental strength. Enormous pressure had been crushing the manager's chair, suffocating at times, and yet, the Italian tactician proved he owns one of the coolest heads in the game, steering his ship straight through the storm. Looking back at the first half, the moment that summed up the gulf came 1 minute before Sano opened the scoring. Brazil's midfield looked weary, with a 34-year-old Casemiro easily left behind in the foot races, in stark contrast to the bottomless stamina of the men in white. An early yellow card left the former Real Madrid man hamstrung, afraid to commit a tactical foul to halt Sano's run, and this was hardly the first time fans had watched this veteran run out of gas against quicker, hungrier midfielders. Most of the experts fixed their eyes on Sano robbing the ball off a misplaced Danilo pass and then powering past Casemiro. But the real credit belongs to the coordinated high press. The Asian side had sprung just a minute earlier, and that deserved genuine praise. When goalkeeper Alisson had the ball at his feet, Japan's front three plus a deep-lying midfielder picked the perfect moment to swarm him in unison, forcing the keeper, in the number 1 shirt, to hammer a long ball upfield. The chaos born from that pressure scrambled the opponent's shape badly, creating the perfect conditions for Sano to punish the mistake. His tireless, relentless engine against the aging Casemiro came as no surprise. This is a player who ranked 3rd in the entire Bundesliga last season for total distance covered, clocking 401.1 kilometers. The weight of age has always been a thorny puzzle Brazil cannot solve. Gabriel, the youngest defender in the starting back line, is already 28. Even so, when Casemiro showed his lack of pace, he made up for it with intelligent positioning and a superb aerial game. He scored more headers than anyone in the Premier League last season, 8 in total, a full 5 clear of the famous Van Dijk. Interestingly, 5 of his 10 goals for the national team have come from pinpoint headers. At 34 years and 126 days, the former Real Madrid star became the 2nd oldest scorer for Brazil at a World Cup, behind only the legend who managed it back in 1998. That this veteran had to limp off late with an injury is a worrying loss for the next knockout round. In engineering that stunning turnaround, Ancelotti's tactical fingerprints were impossible to ignore. His call to throw on a young prodigy as a half-time injury replacement was a serious gamble. The South Americans had been strangled in midfield for 45 minutes, so adding a forward and shifting to a 4-2-4 could, in theory, easily have left them defensively exposed. In reality, that decision proved to be a genuine turning point and hugely effective. The 2 wide men, Vinicius Jr. and Ryan, hugged the touchline and stretched the field to its absolute limit, sharply blunting Japan's relentless press and prying open the space to whip in crosses. Midfielder Bruno Guimaraes was the vital link, surging to the top of the tournament assist charts with 4 goals laid on. He is now creeping toward the all-time record of 6 assists, set by the great Pelé back in 1970. The remarkable growth and maturity of Gabriel Martinelli was the standout story. The 25-year-old forward brought every ounce of the big game pedigree he built at Arsenal onto the grandest stage of all. Through years of relentless sharpening, in London, he built a habit of scoring countless late, decisive goals against giants such as Manchester City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. The most fascinating wrinkle about Martinelli's cameo off the bench was the fresh role he was handed. The talented Arsenal man was instructed to line up far more centrally than the left-wing position he has known for years. With Brazil deliberately pumping cross after cross in from both flanks, having Martinelli central meant he could lurk, pounce, and unleash the fatal finish that booked their ticket through. Occupying that central pocket in the dying, fateful minutes was no accident, but the product of meticulous planning by the coaching staff. Brazil may have served up a flat, forgettable display in the first half. But their fierce response after the break and Martinelli's clever positioning proved the value of pure survival instinct, sparing them the nightmare of packing their bags early. The numbers show the Selecao posted an expected goals figure of 1.72 from 19 attempts, utterly dwarfing Japan's 0.23 from 5 efforts. This victory was thoroughly deserved, a fair reflection of the pressure they generated. But the road ahead toward the world crown still has countless trials waiting in store for these Samba men.